should only be 3 parts. Welcome back. And I have now done parts 1 and 2 of my spiritual journey. I'm going to attempt to only have 3 parts, but I don't know. I kind of in my mind already felt like I was going to have 4 just so it wouldn't be so long, but we'll see. I don't know. So I last left off, you know what? It might be 4 parts because I need to do this disclaimer because I haven't said any of this. This is my spiritual journey. And in the description, I say from a terrified Christian to a powerful creator. I am not anti-Christian. I'm not anti any religion. I believe that if whatever you believe in and whatever you practice, if it pours into you, if it is a wonderful foundation for your life, if you are happy, healthy, whole, if you are thriving, okay, kicking ass and taking names later, if your faith or whatever you believe in helps you to be the best that you can be, I am extremely happy for you. I am rooting for you. I think that is amazing and ain't nothing wrong with that. Okay? So I have nothing against religion. It's just that for me, this is just my story. This is my journey and how it worked out for me. Okay? So I'm just speaking my truth, but not against anyone or against any belief system. Because I felt it necessary to, like I said, I wanted to document it for myself just to track my own journey. But I do realize that there are some people out there, and you may be watching, who can relate, who may feel alone, who could use some encouragement, why not share it? Right? Because when I say from terrified Christian to powerful creator, I mean that. So if me sharing this can help someone else, whether they are Christian or not, wherever you are in your journey, if you are somewhere that you don't want to be, that you aren't happy, that you're depressed, that you're sad, and a lot of the things that I've mentioned that I went through, and even if you don't go through those same things, whatever you go through, you may identify with those feelings. So I just want to encourage you and I want you to know that you don't have to stay there. You don't have to be there, because I figured it out and I came through on the other side. So that's why I'm doing this. Okay. So I wanted to say that. This is not for everybody, and I get that. If not everyone is going to resonate or appreciate it, and if you're offended, it's not my intention, but I am going to speak my truth, and hope that this reaches whoever it is intended for. So I just wanted to say that, and that was almost 4 minutes. So now I have to get into this story. Part 3, are we in? Yeah. So I left off in part 2 with me saying that I finally got to a place in my relationship with my child's father. I had enough conversations with my grandfather telling me to trust myself. Okay. Even though it was contending with what Christianity was telling me, which was to not trust myself at all. Don't do that. It's saying no. Do not. You will fail. Maybe even go to hell if you trust yourself. Don't do that, right? But these feelings that I had, this intuition that I had, this calling that I had, it would not let me stop questioning, stop asking, stop listening, stop wondering, stop seeking and searching to an extent. So my grandfather actually wound up giving me another book called There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem, written by Wayne Dyer. And the way in which that book was written, because there's references to the Bible, it's just done in a way that made me feel so comfortable with me starting to trust my own understanding of Christianity. In the meantime, I'm navigating this relationship and we break up a lot. I do a lot of the breaking up because I am listening to myself and it's telling me it's not right. And so we break up, but then we get back together because it's a part of me that definitely loves him. And I want this relationship to work because we've had this baby at a very young age. And the least we could do is get married, right? It's like that would make it all okay if we get married. We had the baby young. We've been together on more than off the last 7 years. And so to be able to have this fairy tale ending would just make it almost like it wasn't a bad thing. And I'm saying bad, right? In terms of religion, in terms of being frowned upon from a religious perspective. So at some point, things just get so bad. And we almost did get married. We got marriage licenses and everything. And please know this is not a reflection against him at all. I have nothing against him at all. He's a good guy. But we were young and we just weren't a good fit, you know? At some point, things are so bad that I'm just like, I can't do it anymore. And I'm starting to hear about, because I was at this time trying to get out of my grandparents' house. We are graduated from high school. We're working, going to taking college classes, trying to figure it out, trying to adult, trying to get our lives together. But I'm like, I got to get out of my grandparents' house. This is like the third generation in their house, and that's not fair to them. And I just didn't feel good about that. Plus, I wanted the freedom to be able to raise my daughter the way that I wanted to. And so I was looking and trying to find an apartment in high-ass Chicago, okay? While working and going to school and all of that, it was just not happening. It just wasn't happening. And so for me asking, things started coming into, I didn't understand this really at the time. But I was asking. And so things started coming into my experience. And one of them was, an opportunity to move to Madison, Wisconsin. And at first it didn't seem like something I wanted to do. But the more I thought about getting out of this relationship, moving out on my own, and just starting, like having a fresh start, it started to feel better. So once I finally ended the relationship, there was this lightness. It was like things just lifted for me in a way that I can't explain. I started going for walks. And this is around the time when I first really can recall experiencing this. And if I did experience it prior to that, it had been so many years ago. Because a part of me want to say maybe a long time ago, but I don't remember clearly enough to say yes. But I do remember clearly after having separated from my child's father, essentially listening to myself and choosing myself and my own happiness and joy. I remember it was nice outside, the flowers, the beauty, the nature. And I would just be either standing outside and enjoying that, or usually walking. It would happen when I was amongst nature most of the time. I would hear my name whispered or called. Clear as day. Now, I've heard other people that I know say that they've experienced that. So I know I'm not alone in that. Not sure if any of you are going to be able to relate to that, but either a whisper, like it's right here, but no one else is around me, clear as day, or it's coming from somewhere, but I can't really identify where, but just like April, like very clear. And I can't tell you the tone. I can't say man or woman voice. The more I think about like trying to define it, as soon as I would try to think about to define what it sounded like and what it was like, I couldn't. It was like it would just disappear. Like I couldn't, like the ability to identify it as soon as I tried to, I couldn't. But at the moment, I heard it, right? I know that sounds weird, but it's like when you wake up and you know you were dreaming and you kind of have it, but as soon as you really start trying to figure out what you were dreaming about, that it starts to dissipate even more. Like the more you try to remember, the more you can't. It's like that. So I would hear, and it would be it wasn't scary at all to hear my name called like that. It was very peaceful and it felt very, I don't know, it would be like an affirmation. That's what it felt like. That I was on the right track and I was doing the right thing, and it felt good. It felt like a nod, because I would be in such a good place in that moment. So what lined up for me, the shift, this is the shift. Once I decided to break up, this shift happened. Now I'm in this place of being more in alignment with myself. I'm having all kinds of experiences and I'm in such a good place more of the time. And this opportunity to move, it lines up and all of these things. But what also seems to happen, this lightness, this lifting, what also lifts is the fear to finally fully accept my own understanding of Christianity. I don't know. It was just something about that allowed that to happen. And I guess it was because I trusted myself, as my grandfather would say. I trusted myself, I listened to my own intuition, and I allowed myself that feeling of feeling good, right? And not fighting that, all in the name of making someone else happy or proving something. I actually did something for me. And so something about doing that shift, that decision, also when it came to religion, even though I did not give up Christianity, I did not denounce it, I didn't walk away from it, but that fear, that went away. And I felt safe, and I felt that it was okay to trust my own understanding, because I mean, it was just like, it was so outdated and it just didn't make sense. And I'm like, that was back then. They don't know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? So, in addition to that, and deciding to move to Wisconsin, which the feeling there is just different. You're in inner city Chicago. Well, I'm saying I'm in inner city Chicago at first. And there's like churches on every corner, liquor stores, dollar stores, and churches. But that's what I should title this video: liquor stores, dollar stores, and churches. Oh my. But I'm sorry, that's my arm squeaking. That's all it was. The conversation, I mean, you're constantly surrounded by conversations that have religious undertones, or that have, Christianity. The conversation, it's going to be inserted in there. It's going to be, you know what I mean? But moving to Wisconsin, which is, it was just different. Like, that's not the nature of the conversation. You're not getting that all the time, which made me feel even more comfortable. And not just accepting my own understanding, but more comfortable even doing like deeper research and starting to like listen to other things that I normally wouldn't listen to. And my mom, I haven't even talked about her. First of all, my father's side of the family. I've visited with them throughout time. And at some point, I got to an age where I did not, because my father had to take on like kind of like some of the burden of his household, and he would work all the time. So I started seeing him less. But I was still visiting stuff. And so from what I remember, even back then up until now, even though it may not have been heavily religious, it was definitely a Christian household. Okay. My mother's house, like I said, it was my grandma. Her mom was religious and my grandmother's family was. But my grandfather, like I said, he was just open-minded, and he read everything, and he was into like metaphysics and all kinds of stuff. So I was lucky in terms of, even if he didn't introduce me to that at that time, that was the mind that he had, right? And so that's why it was safe for me to go to him. My mother also did not go to church. And I found this out years later, that she stopped going around the same age that I did, which was probably around 13 or 14, right? When I was just lost. Lost and disconnected. And some people might say, well, that's why you were lost, because you weren't going to church. Honey, bye. If you go back to part 1, you'll understand where the disconnection and the trauma and it started right up in the church, my depression, okay? Anyway, so my mom, the whole time, I mean, she worked a lot because she was, her and my father weren't together. But I still recall, I mean, she was just her authentic self, and she was just different, and she made being different really cool. And she was into all kinds of things as well. And it makes sense considering who her father was, right? And so when I moved to Wisconsin, she wound up coming as well, her and my little brother. And she was already into like Louise Hay and all of these people and stuff. And by now she sees that I'm now more open, and I'm a little more open, right? I'm researching, I'm telling her who I'm listening to, and she's like, oh. So she introduced me to Abraham Hicks. Baby, that was a whole nother level. Took me a minute. I was like, oh no, you tripping. They doing what? They channeling what? Yeah, no. So I had to go back and like really go to the beginning of how that even started with Abraham, to even be able to open myself up. If I'm saying people and things that you don't know about, you might want to look into them. I'm just saying. But you may be familiar with them. But yeah, it wound up being like the best thing ever, to be able to get answers in the way that I did. I'm 18 minutes. I'm going to stop at 20 on this one. Okay. So I'm Louise Hay, Neville Goddard, all these different recordings, all these different people. And I'm researching, and I'm into it, and it's helpful to an extent. But then my grandfather passed away. And a year after that, my best friend passed away around the exact same time. Whew. That was tough. That was really, really tough. And it was yeah, that sent my spiritual journey in a whole nother direction in terms of needing answers, and to go deeper, and to really it really made me question who the fuck I am. Who am I? What am I? What is this? I need answers, right? And all of the people, lovely people, right, that I was naming, and there's so many I haven't even named, that I got a lot of, good information from and resonated with, they didn't look like me, right? So I had a lot going on at this time where I was like, I need something. I need something. Something is missing. And so I'm going to stop here and come back in part 4 and tell you what that is. That'll be the end. I'll wrap it all up. My spiritual journey. It'll bring me to the present in part 4. And that was my whole goal, was to go back and bring it up to the present before I started putting out, what it is that I'm doing now and things like that. So that's what I'll pick up in part 4. Okay, is what and how, essentially I got here, right? So if you're interested in that, please come back for part 4. As always, I so appreciate you for being here, and I'll see you then. All right, peace.